Convergent Designs recently released a firmware update for their Gemini 444 recorder. In this update were features like safe eject and recovery tools for SSDs, but the update also included expanded support for the C500, most notably higher frame rates with 2 recorders. The C500 alone can shoot at 30 frames per second in Full HD and 60 frames per second in 720p. One Gemini 444 supports 4K RAW and Quad HD RAW up to 30 frames per second, 4K half RAW up to 60 frames per second, 12-bit RGB 444 HD up to 50 frames per second, and 10-bit 422 HD up to 60 frames per second, as well as other 2K formats. A second recorder expands capabilities to include 4K and Quad HD RAW up to 60 frames per second, 4K half RAW up to 120 frames per second, and 10-bit 422 HD up to 120 frames per second. 120 frames per second is not extreme slow motion, but it's a great speed to use if you want to exaggerate body movement or gestures. To explore the new capabilities of the C500, we organized a shoot with fashion photographer Billy Rood.
And then we're gonna fade that one down and this one up.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, so it'll be like a smile.
Yeah.
Okay. We're just taking it shot by shot. So the first is the kind of opening for this first model is going to be this crossfade from an edge to the key. So right now we're just setting exposure for the key. One of the first considerations with high-speed shooting is lighting. At 120 frames per second with a 180-degree shutter, you lose about 2 1/3 stops of light. So you're going to want to use something a little bit more powerful than you would use with a standard frame rate. The next consideration is that you want that lighting to be flicker-free. We went with the Eco Punch and Jab. These are LED lights that produce significant output, keep the temperature down on set, are flicker-free even while faded, and pull significantly less amps than their counterparts.
So our friends over at Product Productions generously loaned us some Eco LED lights, which are HMI replacement LEDs. We have the Eco Jab and the Eco Punch. They pull next to no power. I think we were dealing with like 4 amps and 2 amps, and we're getting a ton of light out of them. They're a great solution for shooting high speed, and they're not going to give you any flicker, which was, a big part of the research for this shoot, was finding lighting that isn't going to flicker when you're running at 120 frames. So thank you to Product Productions. You can rent them through Product, or you can call us about them, and they are a great solution for shooting outdoors, indoors, and they don't get hot. You can actually check it out. This lamp has been running all afternoon, all morning, and you can put your hands all over it. There's no heat coming off of it, so it's pretty awesome light.
The Eco Punch is also a phenomenal solution for special effects like strobes or lightning effect. Both 4K half RAW and HD at 120 frames per second are in a 59.94 time base. This is due to Convergent Designs working within the current limitations of the C500 firmware. Now, if you want to get more out of your high speed, you'll have to change this time base in post. With HD footage, we used PalmFort DPX header editor to modify the DPX file header, changing the time base to 23.98 frames per second. This process maintains the quality of the footage. The 4K half RAW is a little different. In order to maximize image quality when modifying the time base, we used Canon Raw development software to convert the footage to 4K DPX, which also debayered the footage to 4096 by 2160 resolution. The drawback of this method with 4K is massive data expenditures. HD DPX comes in at a little over 8 megabytes per frame. Now the 4K half RAW RMF is about 6 megabytes per frame, but when you transfer that to 4K DPX in 10-bit, you end up with 35 megabytes per frame, about 6 times the original file size. After converting the footage, we generated proxies using DaVinci Resolve. Overall, I'd say that if your in delivery is HD, then it's certainly advisable that you shoot high frame rates in HD. The 4K half RAW will hold up better next to 4K footage, but it's not going to be as smooth as the HD. This could be down to Convergent Designs working within the current limitations of the C500 firmware, so it's possible that we'll get a smoother image in 4K half RAW in the future. The 4K half RAW is clearly not as sharp as 4K, which is down to the reduced vertical resolution and the manner in which it's sampling the image. The HD is already in DPX, so it's more manageable in workflow and enjoys a higher data rate than half RAW. 4K half RAW will hold up better next to 4K footage, but it won't be as smooth as the HD. so it's best to top out at 60 frames in 4K. However, these issues could be down to Convergent Designs making do with the current C500 firmware, which could be resolved in the future. The overall stability of the Gemini 444 is improved. Wait times between card swaps and formatting is greatly reduced, and the new safe eject function reduces time between takes. We did lose power to one of the recorders during the shoot, which did cause some problems. The recorder was mounted on the dumb side of the camera to evenly distribute weight for use on the Steadicam as well as general ease of use, but it does seem important to mount both recorders where they are easily visible to confirm continuity. The footage can be restored at half the frame rate, but it's a tedious process. Still being a stopgap, the dual recorder setup is certainly not ideal. However, Convergent Designs recently announced the Odyssey 7 and 7Q monitor recorders, which appear to be multi-purpose replacements for the Gemini 444 as well as the delayed Gemini Raw recorder.
Got the brand new Odyssey 7. It's a monitor that can become a recorder, that you can unlock and become a recorder. It's brand new to the show. So basically, it is a 7.7-inch 1280 by 800 monitor, like that, with all the professional monitoring functions built into it, such as focus assist, all your waveform, RGB and luma waveform, false color, one-to-one pixel mode, blue mode, etc. It's got all the basic kind of features for a monitor. One of the cool things about it, though, and most the unique part, is it's a monitor that can become a recorder. So we merge the two functions of recorder and monitor into one unit like that to do it. So we can do compressed, uncompressed, or raw. So a wide range of possibilities for you to do it, including ARRI Raw and Canon Raw. So to do it. So what you do is you buy it as a monitor, then you go to our website and you unlock the recording functions whenever you need it. And one of the very interesting parts about that is that you can either purchase the recording function or you can rent it on a day-by-day basis. Right. With the C500 now, we've got support for that in one unit. And you can shoot 4K RAW, 60 frames per second, one unit up to 45 minutes. The base 7 unit, which starts at $1295, has 2 ins and 2 outs, 2 SDI in, 2 SDI outs. The 7Q, which has got a little bit more horsepower behind it, has got 2 in, 2 out, and 2 bidirectional. So it's the 7Q actually can be upgraded to become a quad HD recorder. So we can have 4 non-synchronized, non-genlock HD sources and records them all in parallel in a compressed format. Like that. So more horsepower in the 7Q.
For more news and tutorials, check us out at magnanimous.biz.